Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. As you can see, the leaves are falling off of the tree. The seasons are changing, so it has been a while. So this is of course going to be another video on the 325 IS. I am proudly able to say that this car is very close to completion, as in terms of getting it running and driving. So as you can see, the car is much more put together at this point. It's much more complete, and I want to quickly explain why I decided to skip filming on the majority of the work that I've done recently. So the main thing is it's just not doing well. Nobody's watching it, and honestly it's just putting a damper on my channel. And normally that stuff wouldn't bother me, but because it takes so much extra time to film this kind of stuff, I decided I might as well skip it. I'm trying not to sound like I got my feelings hurt, but it does kind of suck. I expected the series to do a little bit better, but people don't seem to be as interested in a lot of the work. A lot of other things are much more successful on my channel, like exhaust videos or short shifter, like the fun stuff. People want to see the fun stuff, and I understand that. So I decided to skip it, which does suck for anybody that is curious on, you know, how to go about putting everything back together. So I will quickly kind of give you a rundown, a recap of everything that I did, the process that I did it in, and it might help you. So as you can see, we have the manifold on at this point, and the fuel rail, and the whole harness for the engine is complete. It's all hooked up, everything goes where it's supposed to. So it's kind of a lot right now, but let's go over it. I'll start with the passenger side. So the passenger side is arguably the easiest part. There's not much going on over here. So you have the harness here. Obviously we don't have the cowl, but this is where your harness is, so you can kind of set it up like this. You have for the transmission computer and the DME that would go into the little cubby here for those. So these are not hooked up yet, only because I haven't installed my tune. We'll go over that in a bit. You have the hot block here, and the connections for the hot block. I actually left it connected basically the whole time I had this thing apart. So the only thing I had to connect was the power and the ground, and those are clear. One's bigger than the other, and they're color coded, so there's no way that you could mess that up. Next we have like the OBD1 diagnostic port. This is pretty easy to remember. You shouldn't even have to label it. I did, because I'm dumb. There's also a ground right here, and that actually goes right below where you would mount this guy. Now, depending if you're keeping AC or not, I am, so I ran my AC lines. I just temporarily removed them to make more clearance for the engine to actually be installed, but I put them back in their little bracket thing, and they're sturdy in there. They're back into the compressor, so everything's pretty much good here. The only other thing that you have to do here that I think probably is pretty easy to forget would be, believe me, I'm trying my absolute hardest to show you this ground, but it's right in front of the motor mount. So yeah, it's the ground, and then the rest of the harness here, and then I guess the core support harness, but I haven't installed that yet. Clearly there's no core support, but there's a few things over here that you can optionally keep or not, but I just have the hood switch hooked up, and I deleted a few things on this side. Alright, now for the driver's side of the harness, you have a bunch of stuff hooked up here. This is definitely the fun side of things. You have the X20, or whatever these are called, but I did label these. I don't know if the pinout is different, but I did label them. I'm sure that the pinout's different, but I'm not 100% sure. Open up the fuse box. Underneath this cover, you have your 3 relays that we disconnected. So anyways, the order is here, so blue, white, whatever, turquoise. There's also a power wire for the fuse box there that I did connect. I believe that's like an 8 or a 10. I think it's a 10. And as far as everything else that comes off of the harness, the only other thing would be the wires for the starter. Unfortunately under the manifold, but you know where that's at. There's a ground and a power, and they go on top of each other for the starter. So that's it for this harness. This thing is connected, it's done. It actually seems a lot more confusing and complicated when it's coming out of the car for the first time, but once it's labeled and everything can really only go one place. So if I'm being honest, I think I could get away with not even labeling it next time and I wouldn't have any questions. But in case you needed that refresher, there it is. Now it's time for the super fun stuff. This is arguably, you know, the stuff I would have loved to cover, but I just didn't because it's just me working on this car. So there's not a lot of, I don't have a cameraman, nothing. So it's hard to get all this stuff covered. But I will show you everything that I did as close as I can in detail with the manifold on. But starting at the front, you can see it is pretty clean here. Have the new crank sensor, and because this is being converted from OBD1 or OBD2 to OBD1, this is the position we're using for the crank sensor. You cannot run it in the other position. I did an upgraded Stewart water pump with the metal impeller, so that should be good. We should never have to worry about the cooling system with this car. We have a brand new Mall thermostat and a aluminum thermostat housing. I used some RTV just to, you know, make sure everything was super tight and sealed. Now I did want to simplify this whole thing as much as I could without inconveniencing the things that I like with a car, so just keep that in mind. A lot of these choices were made for myself, if that makes sense. So for instance, like a lot of people just delete AC and delete all their heater core lines, but I really want to retain air conditioning in this car because it is like 110 here in the summer, so kind of unnecessary for me. Here's what I deleted. So no secondary air pump because this is an M52, so it would have a secondary air pump. Don't have any of that. I never had any of that to begin with, so to me it really wasn't an option. I wasn't going to go out of my way to buy a secondary air pump, and I don't need it. You do need a ton of this stuff for emissions, but we'll figure that out. I also deleted the oil separator, the CCV, so I went ahead and deleted that because, again, that was another thing I did not have. The earlier models did not have that, so I didn't have that off my old engine. I wasn't gonna buy one if I didn't necessarily need it. So I will be running a catch can, but I just have some super large hose down there temporarily that I'll run to like a bottle or something until the catch can comes in. So secondary air pump, CCV, and then I also deleted the charcoal canister. Now I'm not sure how much of a difference that this really makes, but as you can see, I'm running like a little K&N filter from the blue line, so the fumes are, you know, venting, but there's no way for stuff to get in here, so that's why I put the filter on there. And then I'm leaving this line that goes to the bottom of the canister that you can kind of see. I'm just going to tie that up somewhere, zip tie it, whatever. Underneath the manifold, I had labeled my harness for at least these connections, so that's the only thing that I would say is kind of confusing. And because this harness is going on a newer engine, on an M52, it was definitely challenging to make it look clean. So it's not as clean as I would like it to be. As you can see, the ICV is kind of just dangling, but it's not going to do any harm. I have one of the brackets holding the manifold on, do not have the other one. The dipstick, I will admit, is being held to a bracket with zip ties. So I just want to make everything clear and transparent. There are some things that are not perfect on this, but given the swap and given like the lack of parts, just because I think it would be insane on a cheap engine like this to go ahead and buy every necessary thing so that it was factory specification for the application that I'm using this car for, if that makes sense. Like it's never, the plan for this car was never going to be like put it back together 100% original from the factory, because clearly it's way different. So that's like where my head is with that kind of thing. The other thing that I deleted is the throttle body cooler, like the throttle body cooler lines. So these actually send coolant through the bottom of the throttle body. There's little ports on the throttle body, and yeah, their job is to circulate coolant through. So you can just loop these lines together, and then it doesn't really obstruct the flow of coolant, because they'll still have coolant flowing through them, but at least they're kind of tucked out of the way. makes it a little bit more serviceable when this is all put together. And it's just one less thing that is part of that rat's nest underneath the manifold. And then pretty much everything underneath this, as far as the hoses, is brand new. So there should be no water leaks of any sort, but if there is, that's my fault. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Aside from getting the fuel rail on, I had rebuilt my injectors just with new pintle caps and well, O-rings or whatever. So the rail is on. I think that's the feed. I can't remember which one's which. I'm pretty sure that's the feed to the back. So the feed line was giving me a really hard time actually mounting it, just because the rail or the fuel lines have to mount onto the manifold, and they're kind of, you gotta flip them at a 90 to get them underneath and mount to the manifold. That was definitely tricky, and I had a lot of fun with that one, but this is all mounted up. Everything is good now. I did not have those little plastic clips that secure the power to the injectors, so I did order those, so hopefully I'll be able to just put those on later. And aside from that, I don't think I'm missing everything. I think that's it. So all I have to do at this point is a lot more. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more to do. I have my tune we'll talk about in one moment, but I still have to run the line from the soft line from the master to the booster. I still haven't done that. It's gonna totally suck. I have to install the slave still, and the soft line from the slave to the master. So there's a little bit more to do. So I don't want it to sound like it's done, but it's a lot closer to being done than it was before. Last time you guys saw it, it was basically just the engine was in here and it wasn't even properly mounted. So transmission is mounted, engine's mounted. It's all good. I'm sorry if you were watching this series and kind of following along, but honestly, again, like I said, it's just like the worst performing content on my YouTube channel, pretty much in the history of my channel. I don't know what that is. My thumbnails are bad or something, but yeah, it was taking way too much time to film all this to get like 40 views. It sucked. Can't lie. It was kind of a slap in the face. So I'm super excited because today I'm going to install my chip tune from 22 RPD. They're based out of Washington. I'm going to install their chip tune today and this DME that came out of the car. This is not a red label, so it actually, I had them bypass a few things. So we'll talk about this, but this is their stage 2 tune. The only thing I had them do in addition is bump the rev limiter up, bump the idle up because of the single mass flywheel, and what are oh, of course, flame tune. How could I forget that? So yeah, flame and burble, which I'm not stoked about the burbles, but it was flame and burble, no other option. So that's what I went with. So yeah, planning for it to be rowdy, and yeah, it's our stage 2 tune. So hopefully this car will make like 200 to the wheel. That would be awesome. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and install this. I've never done it before, so I'm kind of nervous because this is the computer for the car, so I'm gonna try to not fuck this up. Alright, so I just finished installing the chip here. So to get this thing off, I thought, because I read online, it said that you're supposed to disconnect or take off the torque screws on the bottom, which is something you do not have to do. That would disconnect the board from the whole thing. So don't do that. Just bend the tabs up for the cover. There's like 6 of them. And then install the chip. Be very careful because I did actually bend the one that came out. The fucking camera, I hate it. But anyways, this is slightly bent. A few of these little prongs. So I made sure to be very careful putting this one in. But it's installed, and hopefully I shouldn't have to put this one back in anyways. But yeah, installed. I'm gonna put the cover back on and throw this in the car. Alright, so I'm watching this video, and believe me, I am bored as well, so I don't blame you. But if you have made it this far, I want you to drop a comment that says E36 best car, please give me a free sticker, and DM me on Instagram. The first 5 people that do that, if 5 people even make it to this point, you will receive a 36 Works slap in the color of your choice. So I have like a sparkly silver that I just got made, so I don't even have photos of that yet, but I'll throw a photo up of the white one. So anyways, these stickers are really good, they're high quality, and you know, I don't know, if you guys want to rep my brand per se, this is the easiest way to do it, and it's a free way to do it if you just drop a comment. So yeah, first 5 people, little giveaway. I don't know. So anyways, let me catch you up to speed on this car, because it was going great until it wasn't. And this is that. Yeah, so that sucks. Alright, so here is the current day update. Today is the 3rd of December, so this is as accurate and up to date as I can get. So anyways, this is what I thought was a power steering pulley, but it is not, because this guy actually, when you look at it, and you put it up on here, just like that, you'll notice like the belt would never be able to actually, anyways, it's like 3-4 inches off. So I didn't realize that until I started to put it together, but I can't necessarily run this car without putting the belt on, and if I don't have any of this hooked up, then it's just not gonna work. Obviously I have the right size belt, however, if I don't have the pulley for the power steering pump, it's just not gonna work. Otherwise I'd have to get a shorter belt to not run power steering. But even if I got to that point, I ran into another issue. So if you watch the video where I installed the master cylinder, you'll see it is no longer in the car, along with the pedals and everything. So I worked really hard on that pedal box to kind of not have to deal with it inside of the car, because it's a total bitch where everything is. I had to take it all apart because of one little thing. So this master I got with the pedals. So I spent like 120 bucks, 130 bucks maybe on the pedal set, and it came with a master. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'll be saving some money. Anyways, long story short, this little thing for the soft line that goes up to the booster, I didn't have like the bracket or anything to actually clip that line in, because I finally, with the help of a couple friends, ran the line in which you cannot see that goes to the booster right here. You can see the nipple for it. I did run that line through the firewall. So I went to go hook everything up, and I realized there's going to be no way to connect it to the master without having that nipple piece. So I went ahead and ordered the little elbow for the master, and then when that came in, I realized that there's 2 different styles of master cylinders, and the elbow that I ordered was not the right one. So yeah, the masters are just fucking different, which is awesome. And so I had ordered that, it was wrong. So I have now ordered a entirely new master cylinder, because I do not want to run into another problem. I ordered that last Monday, and I paid for the rapid shipping, like the 3-day shipping, whatever, from FCP, and it won't be here until Monday. Big problem with that is I seriously do not have a sliver of time during the week to work on this car. Weekend is the only time I do have time for it. So right now I am at a standstill with this car, just watching the weekend go away. I am not joking. I think I have every other little thing for this car to run aside from that. I still have to hook up the slave and the line from the slave to the hard line, but that can be done in however, like that wouldn't take that long. So I have everything, just aside that little, I just don't have the piece for the master. Now it's all taken apart. And then again, I don't have the power steering pump pulley. O'Reilly's doesn't have the pulley. O'Reilly's doesn't have the master. They also can't get it in within a week. And like I said, I'm at a standstill. I'm fucking pissed. I mean, at first I was bummed out, but now I'm really pissed off, and I've lost a lot of motivation on this car. So I'm sorry about the boring content, but this is pretty much the best that I can do right now. I'm still at a standstill with this car, and I cannot reveal to you my next car, my next project until there's room in the garage to actually work on it. So I have another car, but we need to get this 325IS running, because believe me, after the car actually runs and drives, there's just so much more shit I have to do. You guys haven't seen the interior that's going in this car. You haven't seen any of the other modifications that I have planned for the car. So I have a feeling that those will be very cool, and those videos will be very fun to make. As of now, I'm kind of just fed up with this thing. I just want it to be running and driving. I haven't heard this thing fire yet. I have no idea if the engine is good or the transmission is good. There's a lot of uncertainty with this project right now, and I just want it to be done. Anyways, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was long, I know it was boring, but I'm hoping that this finds somebody that's interested in this. So anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for liking, watching, subscribing. Anything you do helps my channel grow. So yeah, see you in the next one. Peace.